Welcome to tonight's sleep story. Let's drift into a soothing story together as you begin your journey into a restful and rejuvenating sleep. As the quiet whispers of the night unfolded, a subtle disarray rippled through the world of dreams. The dream god, keeper of the slumbering realm, stood at the edge of a vast shifting horizon, his once calm and orderly domain now in turmoil. Dreamscapes, which should have been peaceful and soothing, had begun to fracture and merge. The clarity of each person's dreams had become clouded, their minds lost in a haze of indistinct images and emotions. Something was terribly wrong, and the dream god could feel it in every fiber of his being. The dream god had always been a figure of strength and clarity. He was the silent guardian of the dream world, guiding people to a restful sleep and ensuring that their subconscious minds were nurtured. But tonight, as he surveyed the endless expanse of dreams, he could not shake the feeling that his control was slipping. Dreams, once so serene, now clashed together in chaos, leaving behind traces of confusion and unease. Even the familiar colors and textures that had defined his world seemed to be fading into something unfamiliar and unsettling. "I can't allow this to continue," he murmured to himself, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. His breath, a soft exhale in the dream silence, echoed in the vastness. The dream god had always been able to bend the rules of the dream world to his will, ensuring that the dreams were peaceful and meaningful. But tonight, something felt different. It was as though an invisible force was fighting against him, pushing back against his power dot as he walked deeper into the shifting landscape. The dream god noticed the subtle distortions, the colors that flickered and melted, the shapes that twisted and contorted. His realm, the very fabric of slumber itself, was unraveling before his eyes. The once vibrant dream clouds now hung heavy with shadows, casting strange and eerie lights upon the landscape. The air felt thick and stagnant, as if the very atmosphere had become trapped in a strange, unseen force. He reached out with his mind, trying to summon the soothing whispers of the dream realm, but his efforts were in vain. The usual calm response from the dream spirits was absent. Instead, there was a dull silence, like the world of dreams had become a desert devoid of life. The dream god stood frozen in place, overwhelmed by a strange sense of helplessness that he had never known. How could this happen? Why could he not restore order to this world? The sound of soft footsteps caught his attention. A flicker of movement caught his eye, and before he could react, a figure appeared out of the swirling mist. The figure, though shrouded in fog, seemed vaguely familiar. It was a person, or rather, something that resembled a person, but their features were blurry, distorted, like a reflection in a broken mirror. The dream god took a hesitant step toward them, his heart heavy with uncertainty. "Who are you?" the dream god asked, his voice firm yet tinged with the frustration of the unfamiliar. "What is this place?" The figure smiled faintly, though. The smile felt more like an empty gesture, devoid of warmth. "You've forgotten, dream god," they said, their voice a soft whisper that echoed around him. "This place is not under your control anymore. It is part of something larger, a part of something you cannot change. The dream god felt a surge of confusion and fear course through him. What did this mean? Was this a warning? An omen? The figure began to fade, their presence diminishing like a cloud evaporating in the morning sun. Your journey, they whispered before disappearing completely, is only just beginning. The dream god stood there, stunned, as the last traces of the mysterious figure vanished into the mist. His heart pounded in his chest, the words still echoing in his mind. The question lingered: what was happening to his world, and how could he restore balance before it was too late? With the cryptic words of the mysterious figure still lingering in his mind, the dream god took another tentative step into the disordered dreamscape. The once vibrant clouds of dreams now appeared dull and drained like forgotten memories. As he moved deeper into the chaos, he felt the weight of his responsibilities bear down on him. The dream world had always been his to control, his domain to guide the slumbering minds of humanity. But now, as he traversed this eerie land, he felt the distant echoes of his own power slipping through his fingers. The air around him was thick, oppressive, like the calm before a storm. Yet there was no storm to be had, just an unnerving stillness. The dream clouds, which once shifted with ease, now hung heavy in the sky, like dark curtains trapping the light. The dream god reached out, attempting to will the clouds into motion, but they remained immovable. His control was gone. The simple act of manipulating the dream world, which had once come so naturally to him, now felt like a distant memory. Paused in a clearing where the ground beneath his feet was cracked, exposing a dull and lifeless earth. The landscape seemed to be wilting, like a garden left untended for too long. His eyes scanned the horizon, searching for some sign of the dream spirits that had once guided the flow of dreams. But there was nothing, only silence, broken only by the faint sound of his own breath. It was as if the dream world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to change. The dream god sank to his knees, feeling the weight of his isolation. Was this his fault? Was it something he had done? Some mistake he had made that had caused the dream world to fall into this state of decay? The thought was almost unbearable. He had always believed that his role was essential to the balance of the world. But now, standing alone in this barren landscape, he wasn't so sure. The quiet was interrupted by a soft rustling sound in the distance. The dream god's head shot up, his attention drawn to the movement. Slowly, cautiously, he moved toward the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. Was it another dream spirit? Or was it something else, something far more dangerous, perhaps? The very force that had caused the world to fall into chaos? Asterisk, as he reached the source of the sound, his eyes widened in disbelief. In front of him stood a small, delicate flower, its petals glowing faintly in the dim light of the dream world. It was out of place, a lone beacon of color in a world that had seemingly lost all vibrancy. The flower's delicate petals shimmered, and the air around it seemed to hum with a soft, almost imperceptible energy. For a moment, the dream god just stared at it, unsure of its significance. He reached out a trembling hand, drawn to the flower by an instinct he didn't fully understand. As his fingers brushed against the petals, a gentle pulse of warmth spread through his body. It was as though the flower was alive, resonating with a deep energy, one that had been dormant but was now awakening. The dream god felt a sudden shift within himself, as if something was stirring inside his being. This flower, he realized, was not just part of the dreamscape, it was a message. With newfound resolve, the dream god stood up, his gaze fixed on the flower. It was a symbol of hope in this decaying world, a reminder that not all was lost. Maybe, just maybe, the dream world could be restored. But to do so, he would need to understand the deeper forces at play. He would need to go beyond the surface of the dream world and confront its true essence, the underlying pulse that connected all dreams, all beings, and all consciousness. He turned away from the flower, his mind now set on his next steps. He couldn't do this alone. He needed to find the dream spirits, those ethereal guides who had once helped him maintain balance. If they were still out there, he would find them, and together they could restore the harmony of the dream world. But if they were gone, lost to the chaos that now reigned, he would have to do it on his own. And so, with a deep breath, the dream god began to walk once again. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with unknowns. But now, for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. The path was not as lost as it had seemed. He had found a way to reconnect with the essence of the dream world. The key was within him, within the very dreams that he had once nurtured. The journey toward healing had begun. The dream god's footsteps echoed softly in the quiet dreamscape as he continued his journey. The stillness that surrounded him was no longer unnerving. Instead, it had become a backdrop for his thoughts, a space in which he could finally reflect on the turmoil that had disrupted his once harmonious world. The flower's glow, fading slightly as he walked away, had left behind a feeling of renewal, a belief that perhaps the dream world could be restored. As the dream god walked, the landscape around him seemed to soften. The harshness of the barren world gradually gave way to gentle hills, where the air felt lighter and the colors began to shift once again. A sense of purpose began to take root within him. He wasn't lost anymore. He had a direction now to find the dream spirits, those ethereal beings who had once worked alongside him to maintain the balance of the dream world. The journey felt long, but with each step, the dream god grew more certain that he was moving closer to his goal. He did not know where the dream spirits were or what he would find, but he understood one thing. If he was to restore the dream world, he could not do it alone. He needed their guidance, their wisdom, and their collaboration. Suddenly, the air around him shimmered, and a soft sound like distant chimes echoed in the air. The dream god paused, his heart quickening with anticipation. This was the sign he had been waiting for, the presence of the dream spirits. A figure appeared before him, bathed in a soft, translucent light. It was one of the dream spirits, its form delicate and ever-changing, like a fleeting cloud. The spirit's features were indistinct, but there was no mistaking the presence of ancient wisdom in its eyes. The dream god could feel the spirits, energy as if it were an extension of his own. I have been waiting for you. Dream God, the spirit spoke, its voice gentle, like a whisper on the wind. The dream world is at a crossroads. The dream god bowed his head in reverence. No, something is wrong. The dreams have become fragmented, confused. I need your help. The spirit nodded, its form flickering slightly as if responding to the dream god's plea. We have been watching. The dreamscape is not what it once was, but we have not abandoned it. The dreams are still alive, though they are weak. It is up to you to restore them. The dream god's heart surged with a mixture of hope and trepidation. How can I restore what has been broken? I feel as though my powers are slipping. Your powers are not lost. They're simply dormant, waiting to be awakened. The spirit's voice was soothing, its words like balm on the dream god's anxiety. You must remember who you are. To restore the dreams, you must first restore yourself. The dream god stood in silence for a moment, processing the spirit's words. He had spent so long focusing on his duties as the guardian of dreams that he had forgotten the importance of his own being. Perhaps this was the key. He needed to rediscover his connection to himself before he could heal the dream world. The spirit continued. The dreams will lead you to what you seek. Follow them. Listen to their whispers. And when the time comes, you will find the answers you need. The dream god nodded, grateful for the guidance. As the spirit began to fade, its form dissolving into the dreamscape like mist in the morning, Son, the dream god felt a new sense of resolve. He knew the path ahead would not be easy, but with the spirit's help, he felt prepared to face whatever challenges lay in his way. Thank you, the dream god whispered into the fading air, his heart lightening. As the spirit disappeared, a deep calm washed over him, and he took another step forward, guided by the knowledge that he was not alone. The journey was just beginning, but he was no longer lost. The dream god moved forward with newfound determination, each step grounding him more deeply in the ever-changing landscape of the dream world. The advice from the spirit echoed in his mind. Follow the dreams, listen to their whispers. The words felt like a gentle breeze, guiding him towards something that he could not yet see. Despite the unease that lingered in his heart, there was a quiet certainty that the dreams held the answers he sought as he journeyed through the shifting realms. He began to notice the subtle clues that the dream world offered him. Dreamers, those whose thoughts filled the night air, were no longer lost in confusion. Instead, their dreams seemed to emanate from their deepest desires, their quietest fears. The dream god realized that the dreams were not just fragmented pieces of his domain, but rather a direct reflection of humanity's innermost yearnings and conflicts. He reached a dream that was peaceful, a serene meadow with soft golden light. The sound of a gentle breeze rustled through the grass, and in the distance he saw a figure walking slowly, as though they were trying to reach something important. It was a woman walking barefoot across the meadow, her face calm and untroubled. As she moved, a trail of delicate, glowing flowers bloomed beneath her feet, leaving behind a path of beauty. The dream god watched in silence, captivated by the grace with which the woman moved. He could sense that this dream was significant, one of clarity and peace. It was the kind of dream he had once ensured for every sleeper. But now, as he observed it from the outside, he saw something else, a subtle tension behind the woman's serene expression. Her eyes, though peaceful, carried the weight of something unspoken, a feeling of longing that seemed to stretch beyond her dream. He stepped closer, his presence unnoticed by the dreamer, and gently reached out to touch the air around her. As his fingers brushed the edge of the dream, a soft hum filled the space. And for a moment, the dream world seemed to freeze. In that instant, he understood this dream, like all the others, was a mirror of the dreamer's soul. It was not just about peace, but about finding something that had been missing, perhaps, for too long. "What do you seek?" he whispered softly, though he knew the woman could not hear him. Her footsteps faltered, and a single tear glistened in her eye before she turned and walked away. Fading like the mist in the early morning, the dream god stood alone, his heart heavy with the understanding that dreams were far more than he had ever known. They were more than just the realms he had created to guide the sleeping minds of humans. They were a deep, intricate tapestry of emotions, memories, and desires. They carried the essence of who people were, and perhaps more importantly, who they wanted to be. He continued on, the image of the woman and her glowing path lingering in his mind. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but with each new dream, he could feel the growing understanding of his role as a guide, a guardian, and perhaps, in some ways, a healer. To restore the dream world, he must first understand the dreams themselves, the people who dream them, and the profound impact those dreams had on their waking lives. And so he ventured on deeper into the heart of the dreamscape, knowing that each dream he encountered would lead him closer to the truth he sought. Whether it was peace, love, or a buried regret, each dream was a key, and he was determined to find them all. As he walked, the dreamscape around him began to change again. The fog that had clouded the edges of his vision now parted slightly, revealing hints of the world's beauty, a world still alive, still breathing, still waiting to be healed. As the dream god continued on his journey through the dreamscape, he began to notice something remarkable. The more he ventured, the clearer it became that the dreams were not merely random fragments of slumber, but intricate weavings of emotion, desire, and memory. They pulsed with life, each one a story in itself, a quiet whisper that revealed the innermost thoughts of the dreamer. He had always known the importance of dreams, but now, with every step, he understood them in a way he never had before. The dream world was vast, stretching endlessly like an ocean of shifting thoughts and dreams. He could see small pockets of clarity here and there, dreams of people laughing, dreaming of love, of achievement, of peace. But there were also pockets of darkness, dreams of anxiety, fear, regret, and loss. These were the places he knew he needed to go. These were the places he needed to heal. Asterisk, the landscape itself seemed to reflect this duality. Some areas were bathed in golden light, while others were shrouded in mist, dark and foreboding. Yet even in the shadows, there was beauty, soft blues, pale pinks and faded purples that blended into the darkness, creating a sense of calm even in the midst of turmoil. The dream god walked deeper into the haze, following the whispers of the dreams, listening to their quiet calls. He stopped at the edge of a quiet grove filled with ancient trees. The leaves shimmered in the moonlight, the air sweet, with the fragrance of jasmine. The scene was peaceful, but as he looked closer, he noticed something strange. The branches of the trees, once full of life, now hung bare, their leaves scattered across the ground like forgotten memories. In the center of the grove stood a figure, a man, sitting alone beneath one of the trees, his hands clasped tightly. In his lap, the dream god approached him, curious. As he stepped closer, he could hear the soft sound of the man's breathing, steady but heavy, as though he were holding something back. "Why are you here?" the dream god asked softly, his voice barely a whisper in the stillness of the grove. The man looked up, his eyes empty, as though he had been waiting for this moment. "I'm waiting for something. Someone, maybe?" The dream god's heart ached as he observed the man's sorrow. There was a deep loneliness in his eyes, a yearning for something he could not define. It was a familiar feeling, one that the dream god had often encountered in his journeys through the dream world, but never so acute, never so direct. "What do you wait for?" the dream god asked again, stepping closer. The man sighed, a long, drawn-out breath that seemed to carry the weight of years of longing. "I wait for peace. I've been searching for it in my dreams, but it always slips away, just when I think." "I found it," the dream god understood. This was a dream filled with regret and loss, a place where peace could not settle because the dreamer had not yet reconciled with the past. The yearning for peace was so strong that it had turned into a search, an endless loop that kept the man trapped in this dream of longing. "I can help you," the dream god whispered. "But you must first understand that peace is not something you can find in the future, but something you create within yourself right here, right now." The man looked up at the dream god, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hope. "But how?" The dream god reached out, his fingers brushing the air, and as he did, the dark mist around them began to lift, revealing a soft glow in the distance. The soft moonlight began to shine through the branches of the trees, casting gentle beams of light on the ground. "By letting go," the dream god replied, his voice full of reassurance. "By understanding that peace is not something you must search for, it is something you allow." The dream began to shift. Slowly, the man's tense shoulders relaxed, his breathing softened, and the longing in his eyes faded. The grove, once cold and barren, began to blossom with soft pink flowers, their petals fluttering in the gentle breeze. The trees, now full of life, stretched their branches toward the sky, as though in gratitude for the peace that was finally settling in. The dream god smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what he had come for, to heal the broken dreams, to help them find peace and meaning. With each step, he was not only restoring the dream world, but also rediscovering his own purpose. "You are ready now," the dream god whispered as he turned to leave. The dreams are waiting for you to awaken, to bring them to life with your own peace. With that, he continued on his journey, knowing that this was just one step on the path to healing the dream world. But it was an important one, a reminder that sometimes the simplest truths are the hardest to realize out as the dream god continued his path through the dreamscape. The air around him grew warmer, as if the very atmosphere had begun to respond to his internal shift. He had seen so many dreams now, all different in their own ways, but something still felt incomplete. Each dream, each soul he encountered, seemed to hold a piece of a larger puzzle, one that he could not yet quite see. He stopped before a vast, shimmering lake, its surface reflecting the stars above. The water was calm, but there was a ripple, a subtle shift that caught his attention. He bent down to touch the water, and as his fingers grazed the surface, he felt a strange pull, as if the lake itself were calling him. Slowly, he waded into the water, feeling its cool embrace around his feet. The moment he stepped fully into the lake, the waters began to glow with a faint, ethereal light. The dream god's surroundings blurred, and he found himself transported to a place he had not seen before, an old, forgotten village, hidden in the depths of the dream world. The houses were made of weathered wood, with vines creeping over them. The streets were empty, and the air smelled of dust and earth, a world abandoned by time. As he wandered through the village, he could sense that this place was special. This was where the dreams of the forgotten lay. Dreams that had been left behind, dreams that had been abandoned or lost. And yet, despite their emptiness, these dreams still had power. The dream god felt the weight of each one, the sorrow, the unfulfilled desires that still clung to them. Like remnants of a life that had passed by. There was no movement, no sounds, just the quiet, suffocating silence of forgotten things. As the dream god moved deeper into the village, he came across a well, old and worn. It was unlike the ones he had seen before, its edges cracked and broken, its stone surface worn smooth by years of neglect. But as he approached, he noticed something strange. The water within the well was not empty. In fact, it shimmered, rippling with a soft glow, as though it held the memories of those forgotten dreams. He peered into the well, and a faint whisper rose from its depths. It was a voice, distant but clear, a voice that spoke of sorrow and longing. The words were unintelligible, yet they echoed in his mind, resonating with the same feelings he had sensed in the abandoned village. He could feel the presence of the forgotten souls, their lost dreams lingering in the depths of the well. Suddenly, a vision appeared before him, an image of a woman standing at the edge of the well, looking down into its depths. She appeared out of place, her face filled with both longing and confusion, as though she were searching for something that had eluded her for a lifetime. The dream god could sense her pain, her lost hope. She was a dreamer, one whose dreams had been abandoned, left to fade into nothingness. The dream god's heart tightened as he watched the woman, understanding that her dream, like many others, had been lost in the folds of the dream world. She had sought something, but it had slipped through her fingers, leaving her empty and yearning. what are you searching for? The dream god asked, his voice barely a whisper. But of course. She could not hear him. Her figure remained silent, lost in her own thoughts, gazing into the well, but something inside the dream god stirred. He had come to understand in that moment that these forgotten dreams were not truly lost. They still had meaning, they still carried weight. He could feel their pull, their longing to be remembered, to be awakened. The dream god felt a surge of purpose. He knew now that his journey was not just about restoring the dream world. He was also meant to rekindle the forgotten dreams, to help those who had lost their way to find their forgotten desires once more. The village, the well, the woman, they were all part of something greater, a part of the healing he was meant to bring. With that realization, the dream god closed his eyes, and the village around him began to dissolve like mist in the early morning light. He opened his eyes to find himself once more standing on the edge of the glowing lake, the well's image still fresh in his mind. His path was becoming clearer. He wasn't just here to restore order to the dream world. He was here to heal the forgotten dreams, to help them find their way again. The dream god took a deep breath, filled with new resolve. He would continue his journey, for he now knew that he was more than just a keeper of dreams. He was a healer of the lost and forgotten. Dream god wandered deeper into the dreamscape, his senses heightened, attuned to the subtle nuances of the world around him. The dreams, once chaotic, now felt like delicate threads, weaving through the fabric of reality, each holding its own unique story, its own lesson. The world, despite the decay and the struggle, seemed to pulse with life, waiting for someone to restore the balance. As the dream god moved forward, he encountered a dream unlike any he had seen before. This dream was not a peaceful meadow or a shimmering sky. Instead, it was a vast, dark ocean stretching endlessly before him. The waves rose and fell, crashing against unseen shores. The water, dark as ink, seemed to shimmer with a strange, eerie glow, as though it held secrets buried deep beneath its surface. The dream god felt drawn to the water, the waves pulling at him with an almost magnetic force. He stepped closer, his feet sinking slightly into the soft, wet earth as the tide lapped at the edges of his boots. His heart quickened as he reached out a hand, his fingers brushing the cool surface of the water. Instantly, the ocean seemed to respond, swirling and shifting as though it recognized his touch. In the distance, a figure appeared. It was a woman, her silhouette barely visible against the dark waters. She was walking slowly, her steps deliberate, as though she were searching for something in the depths of the ocean. The dream god's eyes followed her, his mind racing. Who was she? What was her purpose in this strange, dark dream? As if sensing his presence, the woman turned to face him. Her eyes were sad, distant, and filled with a sorrow that the dream god could feel deep in his bones. Her face was both familiar and foreign, as though he had seen her before, but could not quite place where. She spoke to him, her voice soft yet filled with emotion. "You've come to save me, haven't you?" She said, her words echoing in the dream god's mind. "But you don't know how. Not yet." The dream god stood frozen, unsure of what to say or how to respond. His heart ached at the sadness in her voice, the sense of loss and regret that radiated from her. He felt as though he had heard her cry before, in the dreams of others, in the depths of their subconscious. But now, seeing her face to face, he realized that this dream was not just hers. It was a manifestation of something deeper, something that had been forgotten and lost for so long. What are you searching for? The dream god asked, his voice barely a whisper. Afraid to disturb the fragile moment, the woman's eyes locked onto his, and for a brief second he saw something shift within her. It was as though she was remembering something important, something she had long buried in the recesses of her mind. She reached out a hand toward him, her fingers brushing against his, and as she did, the ocean seemed to respond, the waves crashing harder, as though reacting to their connection. "I'm searching for what was lost," she said softly. "I'm searching for the pieces of me that were forgotten, the dreams that were never realized, the pieces of the past that have been washed away by time." The dream god felt a surge of emotion. This dream, like so many others, was not just a reflection of the dreamer's desires. It was a manifestation of something deeply personal, something that had been left behind and forgotten. The woman's quest was not just to find herself. It was to recover the lost pieces of her own existence. The dreams that had been swept away in the tides of time as the waves continued to rise and fall. The dream god understood. The ocean was not just a dream. It was a representation of the unresolved past, the buried memories that each dreamer carried within them. It was a call to heal, to remember, to reclaim what had been lost. The woman's sorrowful gaze never left. His and the dream god felt a deep sense of responsibility. He had to help her, but he knew that to do so, he would have to confront the shadows of the past, not just hers, but the collective shadows that had gathered over the dream world, obscuring the light and distorting the dreams. The dream god took a step forward, his resolve solidifying. He would find the answers. He would help the woman reclaim what was lost, and in doing so, he would find the key to restoring the dream world itself. The ocean swirled before him, its dark waters now inviting him to dive deeper, to search for the forgotten fragments of the past. With a final glance at the woman, he plunged into the ocean, his heart steady, his mind focused on the journey ahead. The deeper he went, the clearer his purpose became. The restoration of the dream world would begin with the reclamation of what had been lost, and that, he realized, was the first step in his quest to heal not just the dreams, but the very essence of existence itself. The dream god continued his journey through the ever-shifting dreamscape, each step more deliberate and meaningful than the last. With each dream he encountered, he felt himself growing closer to the essence of what had been lost. The dream world was no longer a mere playground of sleep. It was a reflection of humanity itself, fragile and profound, full of hidden emotions and untold stories. As he ventured deeper, he realized that to heal the world of dreams, he would have to embrace its complexity, its beauty, and its pain. On his path, He came across a familiar scene, a sea of stars, their luminous glow soft and steady in the endless expanse of the dream world. It was a scene he had witnessed many times before. The stars were like the dreams themselves, shining brightly, each unique in its own way, and yet all part of a greater whole. They held the secrets of the human heart, each one containing a fragment of desire, of memory, or of fear. And there, amidst the sea of stars, stood another figure, a child, no older than 5 or 6, her face illuminated by the gentle glow of the stars above. She was gazing up at the sky with wide eyes, full of wonder and curiosity. Her presence seemed so out of place in this endless void, yet there was something serene about her. She wasn't lost. She wasn't afraid. She was at peace. The dream god approached the child slowly, his footsteps making no sound on the soft ground beneath him. He observed her from a distance, noting the way she reached out to touch the stars, her tiny hands brushing against their shimmering glow. As she did, a soft ripple of light flowed from the stars, traveling like a wave across the sky. The dream god was fascinated. He had never seen anything like this before. The stars, when touched by the child's innocence and pure curiosity, seemed to come alive. The act was so simple, yet it resonated deeply within him. The touch of innocence, the purity of a child's wonder, this was what connected the dreams to their source. It was the key to their healing. As he drew closer to the child, she turned to him, her face lighting up with a gentle smile. "You are here," she said softly, her voice like the breeze that carries the scent of distant fields. "You found me. You found what you were looking for." The dream god knelt down, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within his heart. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice tender, full of the questions that had been plaguing him for so long. "I don't know how to fix this. The dreams, they are lost, scattered. I don't know where to begin." The child's smile never faltered, and she reached out, her small fingers gently touching his hand. "You begin with love," she whispered. "You begin with the things that make you feel alive. Dreams are made from the heart. You must listen to your heart, dream god. Only then will you understand." A warmth, soft and comforting, spread through the dream god's chest as the child's words resonated deep within him. He had been so focused on restoring the dreams through his control, through his willpower, that he had forgotten the most fundamental part of them, the heart, the emotions, the bonds that tie all living things together. The dreams were not just his to control. They were meant to be experienced, shared, and nurtured by connection. His journey was not one of dominance, but one of healing. The child faded into the starry sea, her smile lingering as the light around her began to dim. The dream god stayed where he was for a moment, deep in thought, before rising to his feet. The words she had spoken echoed in his mind. "You begin with love." As he stood there, surrounded by the stars, the dream god felt a profound shift within himself. It was as though a piece of the puzzle had finally clicked into place. He understood now the dreams were not to be controlled, but to be loved, embraced and nurtured. Only by connecting with the essence of the dreamers, by understanding their hearts, could he heal the world of dreams. With a deep breath, the dream god took his first step toward his next phase of this journey. He was no longer just a guardian of the dreams. He was now their nurturer, and as he walked, the stars above seemed to shine just a little bit brighter, their glow reflecting the warmth of the connection he was beginning to feel. As the dream god continued his journey, the landscape began to shift once more. The air around him, which had once been heavy and stagnant, now carried a slight breeze, like the first breath of spring. His steps became more confident, his mind clearer with every dream he encountered. There was a subtle transformation happening within him, one that went beyond his external surroundings. It was as if the dreams themselves were teaching him, molding him into something more than just a passive observer. He was becoming an active participant in the healing of the dream world, but despite his progress, there was still one thing he had yet to understand. Why had the dream world fallen into chaos in the first place? What had caused the imbalance, the fragmentation, and the confusion that had spread through the realm of dreams? The answers, he realized, were not going to come easily. He needed to confront the source of the disarray, the root cause of the disturbance, before he could truly restore peace to the DREAMSCAP. One evening, as the dream god wandered through a forest of towering trees whose leaves shimmered with the soft glow of twilight, he felt a strange pull, a subtle tug deep within his heart. It was an inexplicable sensation, as if the very essence of his being was being drawn to something important. He felt a sense of urgency, but also a sense of familiarity, as though he had been here before. The forest whispered to him, the sound of rustling leaves, almost like a call. The dream god followed the pull, his pace quickening as he entered a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a figure, a woman, dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue, her hair cascading like a waterfall of stars. She stood silently, gazing into the distance, her back turned to him. For a moment, the dream god hesitated, unsure of what this encounter meant. But then, as if sensing his presence, the woman turned, and their eyes met. The dream god gasped, a wave of recognition washing over him. This was no ordinary figure. It was a dream spirit, but not just any spirit. It was the spirit he had once known, the one who had helped him maintain the balance of the dream world before the chaos began. She had disappeared long ago, leaving him with nothing but the faintest memory of her presence. Now she stood before him, her form as radiant as ever, her eyes filled with a depth of wisdom that he could not yet comprehend. "You've come back," the dream god whispered, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. "I thought you were lost." The dream spirit smiled, her expression soft and kind. "I never left, dream god. I was always here, waiting for you to find me." She extended her hand, and the dream god took it without hesitation. As their hands touched, a surge of energy filled the air, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the dream god felt truly connected to the dream world. The puzzle pieces fell into place, It is not just the dream world that has been broken, the dream spirit explained softly. It is you too. You have forgotten your true nature, dream god. The imbalance in the dream world is a reflection of the imbalance within you. To restore the dream world, you must first restore yourself. The dream god felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of confusion, relief, and realization. He had always seen himself as the protector of dreams, the keeper of slumber, but he had never fully understood his own role in the larger picture. He had been too focused on his duties, too lost in his responsibilities to see the truth. He had neglected himself. How do I restore myself? He asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The dream spirit smiled gently, her touch light as a breeze. You must let go of the fear that has been clouding your mind. You must confront the chaos, not just in the dream world, but within yourself. Only then will you truly be able to heal the world around you. The dream god nodded slowly, feeling a weight lift from his chest. He realized that this journey was not just about restoring the dream world. It was about understanding himself, his place in the world, and the power that lay dormant within him. It was time to confront the fear and self-doubt that had held him back for so long. As the dream spirit faded from view, her presence lingering like a soft echo in the wind, the dream god felt a deep sense of peace settle within him. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. The dream god continued his journey through the shifting landscapes of the dream world, each new scene offering both challenge and insight. The sky, once dark and tumultuous, began to soften with the light of distant stars. The colors, too, grew richer, as if the dream world itself were responding to the dream god's newfound understanding of its deeper essence. But even as the landscape transformed, the dream god knew his path was far from over. He had much still to learn, much still to see. His path led him to a strange garden, one that seemed to appear out of nowhere, its vibrant blossoms contrasting starkly with the grayness that surrounded it. It was as if the garden had been hidden away for centuries, waiting for someone to awaken its beauty. The dream god stood at the edge of the garden, unsure whether to enter or continue on his journey. But something drew him in an unseen force, gentle yet insistent, pulling him toward the heart of the garden. With a deep breath, he crossed the threshold, his feet sinking slightly into the soft earth. The air here was thick with the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers, their petals glowing faintly in the twilight. The garden was alive in a way he had never seen before. Each flower, though delicate, held an undeniable strength. Their colors were brilliant, but they were tinged with an ethereal glow that seemed to shift with the dream. God's every movement dot as he wandered deeper into the garden. The dream god noticed something curious. Some of the flowers seemed familiar. They resembled the dreams he had once nurtured, the dreams he had once guided, now forgotten. These flowers, in their quiet radiance, held the memories of lost dreams, dreams that had faded into obscurity. The petals shimmered like fragments of forgotten moments, hints of unspoken hopes and wishes long buried in the minds of those who had once dreamed them. The dream God knelt beside one of these flowers, gently brushing his fingers over its soft petals. As his touch lingered, a sudden flash of understanding filled his mind. These flowers were the forgotten dreams, the dreams that had slipped away, unnoticed and unremembered over time, but they were not gone. They had simply been waiting for someone to rediscover them. A soft voice whispered in his ear, almost imperceptible against the backdrop of the garden's stillness. You have found the garden of forgotten dreams, dream god. The dream god straightened, his heart racing. The voice was familiar, yet not quite. He turned to find a figure standing at the center of the garden. This figure was not a dream spirit, like the others he had encountered, but rather a being of the garden itself. It was a figure composed of both light and shadow, its form shifting like the petals of the flowers that surrounded them. "Who are you?" the dream god asked, his voice steady but filled with curiosity. "Why have I been brought here?" The figure's eyes glowed softly, and a smile spread across its face. "I am the keeper of forgotten dreams, dream god, and you, like all those who pass through this garden, must remember. These forgotten dreams are not lost to time. They are simply waiting for you to acknowledge them." The dream god stood frozen, absorbing the figure's words. Acknowledge them? What did that mean? Could he really bring the forgotten dreams back into the light? Could he restore them to the dreamers who had once forgotten them? But how? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How can I awaken these dreams?" The keeper smiled, its form flickering like a light breeze. "You must first listen to the whispers of the dreams. Let them speak to you. Only then will you understand how to return them to the minds that have long forgotten them." The dream god closed his eyes, and for the first time he truly listened. The garden around him seemed to hum with the soft, melodic whispers of the flowers. Each whisper was like a delicate thread, weaving together fragments of lost moments, forgotten wishes, and silent regrets. It was as if the very essence of the dreams was alive, reaching out to him, yearning to be remembered. He understood in that moment that this was his true task. He was not just the guardian of dreams, he was their reawakener, the one who would guide them back into the world. The forgotten dreams, though faded, still held power. They were not gone forever. They were merely waiting for him to bring them into the light once more. With a final glance at the keeper, the dream god nodded, a sense of resolve settling over him. He had found his purpose. The path ahead was clear, though it was not without its challenges. But now, with the garden's quiet guidance, he knew that he could heal the broken dream world. Piece by piece, by rediscovering the lost and forgotten, dreams dot, and so, with the garden of forgotten dreams behind him, the dream god took a deep breath and set forth, ready to bring the dreams back into the light. One whisper at a time, the dream god felt the change in the air long before he could see it. The dreamscape that had been shifting from place to place, light to dark, had begun to pulse with a strange, rhythmic energy. It wasn't the gentle flow of dreams he was used to. No, this was something different, something older, deeper, and more ancient. As he stepped through the fog, He could sense that this part of the dream world was not merely an illusion, but a reflection of something much larger than himself. The air felt heavier here, as though the weight of countless dreams, thoughts, and wishes had coalesced into a force he could no longer easily command. It was a force he had always felt lurking beneath the surface, but had never dared to fully confront. Now it was calling to him, beckoning him forward, urging him to look deeper into the mystery of the dream world. With each step, the pulse grew louder, more pronounced. The dream god had seen many things in his long existence, but nothing like this. The edges of the dreamscape seemed to blur into something infinite, as if the boundaries between dreams, the dreamer, and reality were becoming one. It was as though the entire dream world was breathing together, each part of it alive with the collective thoughts of all who slept. Suddenly, he saw them, more dream spirits, their forms shimmering in and out of focus, flickering like the fading stars. They were the ancient guardians of the dream world, the ones who had existed long before even the dream god had first taken on his role as protector. These spirits were not like the ethereal beings he had encountered before. They were primal, wild, embodying the pure essence of dreams themselves. Asterisk. One of the spirits stepped forward, its glowing form nearly blending with the surrounding mist. It was tall and powerful, its face unrecognizable, but its presence unmistakable. The dream god felt a sudden rush of recognition, a sense of awe and fear. This was no ordinary spirit, it was the Elder of Dreams, the first being to have ever existed in the dream world. Dream god. The Elder's voice echoed low and resonant, like thunder rolling through a distant sky. You have come to the heart of the dream world, where time and reality bend to the will of the dreamers. The dream god bowed respectfully, his own sense of power and control feeling small before the Elder's overwhelming presence. I seek to understand, to restore what has been broken. The Elder's glowing eyes studied him, as if assessing the depths of his soul. To restore the dreams, you must understand the very essence of what they are. Dreams are not just figments of the mind, they are the pulse of existence itself. They bind together the conscious and unconscious, the living and the dead. The dream god felt the weight of these words settle on him. He had always viewed dreams as separate from the waking world, a place to escape, to guide others through their slumbers. But now he was beginning to understand that dreams were far more than that. They were a reflection of everything, every emotion, every thought, every action that ever existed. And with that realization came a deeper understanding of his own role. You have always protected them, but you have never truly known them. The Elder's voice softened as if pitying the dream god's ignorance. Now, you must learn the truth. There is a balance, a delicate thread that ties all dreams together. If that thread is cut, chaos will reign. The dream god nodded, feeling the truth of the Elder's words resonate deep within him. His task was not just to control the dream world, but to understand the interconnectedness of all dreams. The spirits, the dreamers, the very essence of sleep, it was all connected. And he had failed to see that before. What must I do? The dream god asked, his voice trembling with newfound understanding. The elder extended a hand, and from it, a glowing thread appeared, weaving itself into the air, pulsing with light. Follow this thread. It will lead you to the answers you seek. But be warned, what you find may not be what you expect. As the dream god reached for the thread, it began to unravel, revealing a path forward, illuminated by the soft glow of the dreams that had once seemed so elusive. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, following the thread deeper into the heart of the dream world. That the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, revelations, and a deeper understanding of the forces at play. But for the first time, the dream god felt that he was truly on the path to healing. The dream world was vast, but now it felt as though he was finally beginning to understand the intricacies of its power. As the dream god continued his journey deeper into the heart of the dreamscape, something began to shift within him. The more he encountered the dreams of others, the more he realized how interconnected everything truly was. The dreams were no longer just fleeting images. They were alive, filled with energy, emotions, and stories. Each dream held a piece of the greater puzzle. The world of dreams was not just a reflection of individual consciousness. It was a living, breathing entity in its own right. The world around him had changed once again. The barren, decaying landscape had begun to give way to lush gardens, vibrant skies, and sparkling rivers. The very air felt lighter, as if the dreams themselves were waking up, stretching toward the light. The dream god could feel the transformation. In every fiber of his being, he was no longer just a guardian of dreams. He was part of them. The boundaries between himself and the dream world were fading, and in their place was a deeper connection, a union between the dream god and the dreams he had always watched over. For the first time, the dream god felt the dreams not just as a force he could control, but as something sacred, something worth protecting and nurturing. The world of dreams, once a place of order and structure, was becoming a space of creativity and possibility. He realized that the key to restoring balance in the dream world was not in reclaiming control, but in allowing the dreams to evolve and grow in ways he had never imagined. As he continued his walk, the dream god saw something that made his heart swell with hope. In the distance, he could see a great tree, its branches reaching high into the sky, its roots sprawling deep into the earth. The tree was unlike anything he had seen before. It glowed with an ethereal light, casting shadows and warmth across the landscape. It was a symbol of growth, of the potential for rebirth. The dream god approached the tree slowly, feeling an inexplicable pull towards it. As he drew closer, the air around him seemed to hum with life, the leaves rustling with a soft melody, as if the tree itself was speaking to him. He reached out, touching its bark gently, feeling the pulse of energy within it. In that moment, the dream god knew that this tree was the heart of the dream world, the source of all dreams and their unending potential. Suddenly, the tree's energy surged, and a vision unfolded before the dream god's eyes. He saw himself not just as a guardian, but as a part of the very dreams he had once sought to control. He saw the interconnectedness of all beings, the way dreams wove together the fabric of existence. In this vision, he was not alone. There were countless other beings, dream spirits, ancient entities, and even humans whose lives were intertwined with the dreams. The dream god's role was not to stand apart from them, but to work alongside them, to nurture and protect the very essence of dreaming. The vision faded, and the dream god stood alone once again beneath the great tree. The realization was clear. He could not restore the dream world by simply asserting his power over it. The world of dreams needed collaboration, balance, and freedom to evolve. He had been given the gift of understanding, a deeper insight into his role as a caretaker of the dream world, and now he knew that his task was to foster that growth, not stifle it. With a newfound sense of purpose, the dream god turned away from the tree, his mind set on the path ahead. He knew that there were many more dreams to encounter, more challenges to face, but now he understood how to navigate them. The journey was not about control, it was about unity. It was about weaving together the fragmented pieces of the dream world and creating a harmonious whole dot as the dream god ventured deeper into the heart of the dream world. The ethereal glow of his surroundings began to shift. He moved through one dream after another, observing each scene unfold like a whispered secret. But no longer was he simply a passive observer. With each dream he encountered, he became more attuned to the pulse of the dreamscape, understanding the subtle undercurrents of desire and fear that gave birth to each vision. The dream god realized that this journey was not just about restoring balance. It was about reconnecting with the very essence of the dream world and rediscovering his role within it. It was then that he stumbled upon a dream that was unlike the others. The landscape was barren, empty. There were no colors, no sounds, and no life. Just a vast, empty expanse under a pale sky. The dream god hesitated, drawn to the quiet, knowing that within this stillness lay a deeper truth. He could feel the weight of loneliness in the air, the silence pressing against his chest. This was not just any dream, it was a manifestation of emptiness itself. He stepped forward, feeling the ground beneath his feet shift with each movement. The absence of light, of life, was suffocating, and yet the dream god felt compelled to move deeper into this void, compelled to understand what lay beneath the surface of this silent dream. What had caused this profound emptiness? What part of the human soul had created such a barren place? As he walked, the emptiness began to shift. Slowly at first, a single figure appeared in the distance, a shadow standing against the pale sky. The dream god could feel the pull of the figure, an inexplicable connection that drew him forward. He moved closer, his heart heavy with anticipation. Was this the source of the emptiness, or was it something else? As he reached the figure, he found himself standing before a person, a dreamer, who stood motionless in the center of the void. Their face was obscured, but their presence was undeniable. The dream god reached out with his mind, attempting to make contact, to understand the cause of this desolate dream. "Why are you here?" he whispered, his voice soft and unsure. What is this place? The figure slowly lifted their head, revealing a face that was both familiar and foreign. It was a face of deep sorrow, filled with years of longing and unspoken pain. The dream god recognized the pain instantly. It was the same pain that he had seen in countless dreams before. Loneliness, a feeling of being lost, of being unheard, of being disconnected from the world and from others. The dreamer's eyes met the dream god's, and in that moment, the dream god felt the weight of their emotions. He could see the years of solitude, the silent cries, the unfulfilled dreams. This was not just a dream, it was a plea for help, a cry for connection. The dream god's heart tightened as he realized the gravity of the situation. "I am lost," the dreamer whispered, their voice barely audible. "I have forgotten what it feels like to be whole." The dream god knelt before the dreamer, his heart aching for them. This was the emptiness that had plagued the dream world, the sense of disconnection that had spread through the realm like a shadow. He reached out, gently touching the dreamer's hand, offering them a connection, a link to the rest of the world, to the rest of their dreams. Asterisk. And in that moment, the dream god understood. This was not just about restoring balance to the dream world. It was about healing the broken pieces of the soul, reconnecting the lost fragments, and helping the dreamers rediscover the parts of themselves that they had forgotten. As he touched the dreamer's hand, a warmth spread through the air, and the void slowly began to fill with light. The dreamer's face softened, their expression relaxing, as though a great weight had been lifted. The emptiness that had once surrounded them now dissipated, replaced by a soft, golden glow. The dream god stood, watching as the landscape around him transformed. The barren emptiness was now a vibrant, colorful world, full of life and possibility. The dreamer, once lost in the void, was now standing tall, their heart open and full. The dream was no longer one of sorrow, but one of hope. With a deep breath, the dream god turned to leave, knowing that this was just one dream of many. He had found the answer to the emptiness, connection. The healing power of human bonds was what the dream world needed, what the dreamers needed. As he walked away from the dreamer, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. There was still much work to be done, but he knew that he was no longer alone in his journey. The dreams, the dreamers, and the spirits of the dream world were all connected, and together they would restore balance. As the dream god ventured deeper into the heart of the dreamscape, the environment around him grew ever more vibrant, yet still tinged with a subtle sense of urgency. His heart swelled with understanding, though each step was filled with both promise and mystery. The revelations from his journey, from the flickering flower to the dreamer in the meadow, had given him profound insights into the intricate nature of dreams. They were not just fragments to be mended, but complex, living entities that intertwined with the hopes, fears, and deepest desires of those who slept out at the edge of the dream world. He found a place unlike any he had encountered before. It was a serene lake, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the full moon that hung above. There, by the edge of the water, he saw a figure seated on a rock. This figure, unlike the dream spirits he had encountered before, was not glowing or ethereal. Instead, they appeared human, tangible almost as if they had once walked among the waking world. The dream god approached cautiously, feeling the air around him shift. The figure turned towards him, their expression calm yet wise. "You have come far," the figure said, their voice soft and deep, as if it carried the weight of ancient knowledge. "I see you have begun to understand the nature of dreams." The dream god nodded, unsure of how to respond. I think I do, but there's still so much I don't understand. Why is the dream world in such turmoil? What is it that I must do to restore it?" The figure smiled gently, their gaze thoughtful. "It is not the dream world that is broken, dream god. It is the minds of those who dream that are fragmented. Their desires, their fears, those are the forces at play. You must first understand that to heal the dream world, you must heal the dreamers. The dreams are reflections of them." The dream god listened intently, the weight of the figure's words settling deep within him. He had always believed that the dream world was a separate realm, one that he controlled and guided. But now, he saw that it was intertwined with the very fabric of human consciousness, tied to their emotions, their growth, and their personal journeys. "You are their guide," the figure continued, "but you must also allow them to find their own path. The dreams are not to be controlled. They are to be nurtured." The dream god felt a sudden shift within himself, as if a door had opened in his mind. He understood now his role was not just to guide, but to allow space for the dreamers to evolve, to find meaning within their own dreams. He was a protector, a nurturer, but not a controller. His presence should help them understand themselves, not force them into preordained paths. The figure stood up, the reflection of the moon rippling across the lake. "The time has come," they said softly. "You are ready. The dream world will heal through your understanding. It will heal through your empathy." With a final knowing smile, the figure dissolved into the mist, leaving the dream god standing at the edge of the lake. For a long while, he stood there, reflecting on the words he had heard. He felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Dot in the distance, the sky began to brighten, the first light of dawn creeping into the dream world. The dream god smiled gently, understanding now what he had to do. The dream world was not something to be fixed. It was a mirror of the human soul. It needed nurturing, understanding, and compassion. He had always believed in the power of dreams, but now he understood their true depth. The dream god turned away from the lake, his heart lighter than it had ever been before. The journey was far from over, but he no longer feared the unknown. With each dream he encountered, he would grow and learn. He would walk with the dreamers, not above them, guiding them gently, always helping them find their own path. Dot, as he began his walk back through the dreamscape, the once chaotic world around him began to shift once again. The colors brightened, the air became lighter, and the sounds of the dream spirits returned, no longer silenced by the disturbances that had plagued the realm. The dream world was healing. The dream god smiled as he moved forward, for he knew that his work had just begun, but now he understood it. The dream world was alive, and through the dream god's understanding, it would thrive.